Hi.
Good evening and welcome to Monday night segment of Horsefly Chronicles Radio with myself, Julia Siracusa, and Philip Siracusa. We are broadcasting live from the United Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 FM from New Orleans. This evening's show is sponsored by Carnation, so we want to thank them for their sponsorship. We will have to do a few things in order to participate. Go over to the YouTube channel, UFO Paranormal Radio, and get into chat. Subscribe if you haven't. You can go into all of the United Public Facebook stations, Twitch, SoundCloud, and Podbean. You can also go into the UFO Undercover with Joe Montaldo on Facebook as well. I can respond to your comments on our YouTube channel on UFO Paranormal Radio. And if you have any questions for our guests, please ask. Today we have an amazing guest, guys. Phil's been studying near death for so long. So I want to please welcome to the show Janet Tarantino. Janet is a network coordinator for a major corporation. Janet has experienced multiple NDEs where she has experienced all of our questions to what happens to you after you cross over to the other side. God showed her moments of her life and told her these moments matter and understand them. After years of silence, all of the moments she was shown now occurred, and she is ready to reveal what she saw and learned. So she has written a book, Dying to See, Revelations about God, Jesus, our pathways, and the nature of the soul. You can purchase her book on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and read her whole story on her website, janettarantino.com. So please let's welcome her to the show.
Welcome.
Yay!
Hello. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. And you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
My pleasure.
So you're echoing a little bit. Do you have two mics on, or maybe a speaker on?
I turned my speaker off. Let me turn off. I'll turn off my mic.
Yeah, that won't. The mic. Now we can't hear you. So.
You've got to put the mic back on. Go into. Can you hear us?
If you hear us, you need to put the mic back on. We can't hear you. I don't know if you hit something. Yeah, we still can't hear you. So I don't know. Maybe you hit something by accident on your side.
Hello?
It doesn't sound. All right, so
guys,
you may want to click off the show and then click back on, because we can't hear you, and it's not coming in at all. All right, so sorry about that interruption. That's computers and internet and all that fun stuff. So I guess we'll be back shortly. But as Julie was saying, near-death experiences, I'm intrigued by. And, we study these cases for years, and especially people that have been proven clinically gone. I mean, there's no heartbeat, there's no functions of the brain. And some of them, like the guy who 90 Minutes in Heaven, right?
Oh my God, I love that movie. I'm just trying to get our guest back, but that was a great.
That was a great movie.
And book.
And book.
We read the book first.
There's a lot of similarities to the people that cross over, where they go through this tunnel.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah,
Okay, there's something going on your end. We'll try to make the best out of the show, but whatever's happening is you're getting feedback, so it's echoing through your system.
yeah.
I'm not sure why, but we'll do the best we could do.
Okay.
Sorry.
Can you say hello?
Hello.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you
Okay.
It's
for
a little
having
bit.
me.
It's a little bit better. Usually, when that happens, something is too close to the microphone, which is setting off the feedback.
Oh, I don't have. That'd be this. The only thing I have here is the speaker. I mean, the microphone.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to make do. You're a little bit better. I'm fascinated, intrigued by your story. I mean, you've had a near-death experience,
3 of them.
and 3 of them. Did you say 3 or 4?
3.
3.
Amazing. So, can you tell us about the first one?
The first one was I'm 15 and I became ill. My mother stayed in bed with me because I was so ill. During the night, I looked up at the ceiling at the light, and it had been turned off during the night. But then I felt dizzy, and I felt like I fell backwards through the mattress out of my body. So my spirit had left my body, and I was then in spirit form. And when I looked up at the ceiling again, everything turned to clouds. And then there was 2 swirling motions on the ceiling again, and 2 more openings opened into the clouds into 2 different worlds. In one, I saw a sumo wrestler dressed in white, in a white light, in just looking at me. And all he did was watch me. No matter how he moved, he kept his eyes on me. And then on the other one, I saw a beautiful woman come sweeping in, seemingly on the most beautiful music I've ever heard. And she and the sumo wrestler were talking to me. And we're talking to each other, not me. I couldn't hear them. And so I just watched. And then I was so interested in her dress, I was all of a sudden up at her dress, and I flew in and out of the lace eyelets on her dress because I was then in energy form. Like the eyelets were caverns, that's how small I had gotten. And then I returned to above my body. And I knew I was above my body because of because I was at the window height, which was 2 feet above my body. And then when they were done with their conversation, there's more that happened, but when they were done with their conversation, they transformed into 2 balls of light and left the room and observed me from the side windows. And then when they left, I went back into my body. But what I realized later from that, many years later, the person, the beautiful music box lady, was my future daughter, who wasn't going to be born until 15 years later. And if I had died that night, she wouldn't have been born. The sumo wrestler was my guide, who they call a watcher angel or an observer angel. And he is always with me through my life to protect and guide me. That's what I learned from the first one.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Unbelievable.
You know, there's a lot to this. There's a lot of moving parts to a near-death experience. And some people, well, I've had one years ago, but we're going to focus on yours. And some people say, well, how do you know it's not an illusion? It's not part of the mind tricking the consciousness. How do you know that you really crossed over to the other realm?
Usually you're looking down on your body, and so you're in a different dimension, and the near-death experience studies have, over the years, come to know that these are actual glimpses of heaven. Bruce Grayson, who has studied this for years, who is a professor and psychologist, has come to believe without a doubt that they are indeed glimpses of heaven. And when you're out of your body, you know this is more real than in your physical body. And it's all peace, love, and tranquility. At least that's what it was for me.
Peace, love, and tranquility. So you felt no pain. You felt the love. You felt peace. And that's one of the signs that validates that you had a true near-death experience. Interesting. I believe you. I believe in them because I've had experience. And what you just said validates, hey, this was real. You know, I know that side. And you were hovering over your body. Now, I want you to tell us about the second near-death experience, but before you do that, can you just move a little bit, because you're coming loud and clear, back away from the microphone?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people listening, this is a really interesting story you have, an experience, but I don't want to get feedback. I want people to be able to hear this.
How about that? Is that better?
Yes, a
A
little
little
better.
bit better, just a little bit better.
Is that better? I moved it back farther.
It's better.
A little bit. Yes, something you're doing on that end is
That's
making me
whatever
echo.
you're doing. That's making
Is
it
that
work.
better?
It's okay. It's okay. All right, take us to the second near-death experience.
Okay, the second near-death experience was when I was working for the corporation. And I was on a break, vacation. My parents had asked for the kids for a month. And so I had a month to myself. So I delivered the kids to Boise, and I live in Denver. I returned to Denver, and before I was go back to work, I wanted to plant all my flowers on the deck. So I went to the flower nursery, and on my way home, I was in the middle lane of a 3-lane road, and there was virtually no traffic around. And I noticed that I was catching up to the person in front of me faster than I should be. And I evaluated the situation, and on the left side was a park, a school park, and on the right side was a grassy area. And I didn't know what was in front of him, because he had stopped in the middle of the road, in the middle lane where there's no lights and no reason to be stopped. So I, not knowing if there was a child in the road and which way it might be going, I stopped behind him. Then all this traffic had started to come over the hill behind me. And when I looked in my rearview mirror, I saw that all lanes were filled and all these cars were barreling toward us. And the vehicle behind me was a pickup truck. And the driver was looking to his right, and I knew he didn't see that we were stopped. I knew I was going to get hit, and I hadn't fastened my seatbelt. I was going to do that on my way home. And I knew I couldn't get it fastened. So in my mind, I yelled out, "Oh God, he's going to hit me." And that's when I heard a voice give me directions on what to do. He told me to lay down across the seat and cover my face. So that's what I did. And as the accident played out, the first bump just felt very slight, and I thought, oh, that wasn't so bad. So then I brought my arms down, and I was looking up, and the window above me was shattering in slow motion as a piece of art being created. And then by that time, my car was being pushed into the car in front of me. So the second collision was happening. And I should have been tossed forward then, but instead of being tossed forward, I had an arm come under my knees and another arm come under my shoulders, and I was picked up by something I could not see, but was there. And then I was looking down on the scene from above, watching the accident. And I saw a person pull over to the side of the road and run across the street. And then I was snapped back into my body again. And I was in the front seat where I had laid down. So initially, when they came, it was the first person on the scene was a nurse heading to work. And she said she'd been tossed around the car because the seats are laid down. So I was asked if that was true. And I said no, because I was in the same place I had started. However, I was tossed around the car because it was the rear window that was shattered. So this proves that our calls for help do get answered as long as they don't interrupt or interfere with the lesson plans that we have laid out for us to learn. So that was, after that accident, my awareness was open to the invisible beings that would be around us. Now, do you think these lights would these lights be doing that?
Wow.
You think these lights would be causing that echoing?
We're trying to.
Yeah,
We're trying to hear you.
Unfortunately, there's a problem over there where you are that we're trying to make out the word you're saying again. And what's happening is, once again, it's all feedback, and we're trying to decipher your words, but it's not working out. I would assume that there's some kind of another gadget on where you are.
Ring lights?
I'm sorry?
Ring lights?
No, you're echoing, and it's echoing continuously, and it's causing a high pitch.
Let me try something. Let me try something.
Okay, just don't.
Yeah, so it's hard to hear you,
just don't shut it. And yeah, don't shut the camera off. I mean, the mic off.
Did that help anything? No.
No. Usually you have two mics close to each other, and that's what's doing it. Two microphones.
I have the computer mic and the blue, my other mic that I'm using.
Yeah, that's what's doing it.
What other mic?
Okay, so
it's sending feedback off of each other, and then, if we can't hear you, I'm sure the listener on FM is not hearing you as well, because you only can use one mic.
But how would I get the other mic on?
I don't know. That's why I was suggesting, if you move far away, like maybe like 2 feet back from the microphones, it's worth a shot. You can try to
How's
continue.
that? How's that?
Oh,
Is that
You're
better?
close.
all right. Let's try. Let's hear her talk.
Okay,
Is
let's
that-
give that a shot.
Okay. I put it on a different speaker, and let me unplug this one and see if that helps.
Yeah, you shouldn't have anything running but the microphone that you're speaking on.
Okay, is that it?
Well, no, now you're echoing again. So you that speaker is probably too close to that microphone.
Okay, let me get, there's no power to it though. Okay, there's no power, that's way over there.
Oh, the mic's up, right?
All right, so yeah, sorry to the listener out there. Sometimes these things happen. Unfortunately, we're going to try to make the best out of it. If not, we're going to cut the show early tonight because if I can't hear it, I'm sure that everybody else is not hearing this as well.
Let me.
So we'll try. And usually the problem is, like I said, you have a speaker too close to the microphone, and you're getting a feedback, and it's echoing.
It could be. Let me try something else.
So near-death experiences, we have a person on who's experienced quite a few. And it's when you're hovering over the body, the peace and the tranquility on the other side.
Let me ask you a question, Phil. When all these deaths that you study, do they all have a similar story?
There's always something similar. Now, some people go through the tunnel. When I had mine, and I didn't die. I remember, I was put under, and I shot through a tunnel really fast. And I was about 9, 10 years old in a dentist office and on the chair, and I shot through this tunnel, and it was like getting sucked into a vacuum cleaner hose. That's what it felt like. It was so quick, and it was dark, really, really dark. And then all of a sudden, this tremendous light opened up at the other side, and the light was overwhelmingly beautiful.
Wow.
And on the other side, it was my grandmother who crossed over, and it was my grandfather who I never got to meet in the physical world. I never met him. And I knew I seen him, and I knew who he was just by seeing him, but I never met the man.
You knew him, but you didn't meet him.
And he goes, "Hi, Sonny." And I was like, "Grandpa." And then my grandmother looked at me and pointed her finger, and she goes, "Go back. You're not supposed to be here." And I felt like I felt sad. And when she did that, I was pulled back through the tunnel, right, going so fast, and then hovering over my body, and then back into myself. And this was all happening during a procedure in the 70s to me.
The sweet air.
The sweet air.
Yes.
And that's what they used back then. And I'll never forget that, because what I've experienced at such a young age and getting to see my grandfather gave me validation. Hey, wait a second. We go on. This is not the end of our journey.
Yeah.
And I was young, so I really didn't know that till years to come.
Right.
That there is another side. And I will tell the listener and the viewer this is that what I seen, first of all, there's no real words to describe the beauty of the light. It was like thousands of miles wide and high, and there were these huge gates behind them. These gates were like made of something, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't that close to these gates. And they were outside of these gates. Welcoming, well, he was welcoming me, but my grandmother knew I was coming, and she sent me right back.
Telling you to leave.
But it was beyond perfection.
Yeah.
Like the words, if I say beautiful, it means nothing. If I say perfect, it means nothing. You really can't describe the words to the other side. But as our guest was saying, but she rang a bell in me that the tranquility and the peace. I take back that the ultimate word within the physical world and obviously the spiritual world when you cross over is love.
Yes.
And we say the word, but we really don't know the meaning behind the word, right? Because we could say, I love you. And then the next day you have a fight. It's like, well, I did love you. It has no substance, but the real meaning of that word is not respected enough. And it's up until you have that experience, like our guest did, and I did, when you cross over, it's like, wait a second, that word means everything. It is everything. We are everything.
Mm-hmm.
We are the love, the light, the peace, the harmony. And you don't know that till your soul crosses over and you experience that. And I had sent my guest friend request on the near death experience page, and there's about maybe 50 to 70 people who talk about crossing over to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And some people were clinically gone on the hospital table. They were gone. It was
For a
it.
while.
They were pronounced dead. And they tell their story of, hey, wait a second. When we crossed over, we seen everything like a 360 degree. We seen everybody in every state. We felt the emotions, the impressions, and the prayers. One thing I want people to know is that when we pray for a sick one, a loved one, those prayers are being heard.
Yeah.
I promise you that they are being heard.
Yeah.
And sometimes, people say, well, you know what? I lost someone and I don't believe my prayers were answered. I will tell you this, that up until the time you actually cross over, it's going to make sense that it was answered in a different way. Just like this guy that was in a car accident, Anthony, I forget the last name, he's on my page as well, and he lost his son and he lost the wife in the car accident. He fell asleep behind the wheel. And he had a hard time dealing with that, but he's seen where they went.
Yeah.
And he accepted it because, like, wait a second, I seen where they went, and it's almost incredible to describe. So my guest, I want to ask my guest a question.
Yeah, let's see if you can.
I want to ask you a question. Do we, in the physical body, before we're born, do we pick our exit signs?
Mm-hmm.
Before we're born, we
Yes.
do.
We do.
I was before a panel of beings.
So we pick a time that we know that, hey, our soul's journey, I want it to end here. Like, we write the book of our life, and then we live our life to complete the soul's journey here on that one time around, right? Because I do believe in multiple lives, reincarnation. So then we say, okay, this is how I want to cross over, and this is what I want to experience. Is that true?
Yes. Yes.
It is. Okay.
I was before a panel of beings. And they made it known that they brought certain people into my life for a particular reason.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so Bob was brought into my life from the other side of the world for a particular lesson. So I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I believe that we come into the physical world in soul groups. Mm-hmm. It's like we come, just like we are physical people here, we have friends and all that stuff and cousins and all that and parents. On the other side, how I felt and how other people describe it is that's home.
Right.
That's home.
Yeah.
Some people will say, well, it's heaven. I call it home. It's home. It's the perfect fit of the soul of us. It's home.
A lot of people do say that.
And we come here through these journeys to learn more. And I guess one of the questions I always have is, well, if the soul the soul doesn't know everything. Mm-hmm. Why do we do these journeys in the physical world?
it knows at a certain level, because I saved this picture on a magazine of a tunnel and a little girl. From a Life magazine. Let me throw that. And it was after that my near-death experience happened.
Wow.
And my father told us he was going to die before my mom, when she was the one that was so ill. And sure enough, that was in March, and he died in September before my mom, 9 days before my mom. And then before she died, the night before she died, she saw my dad, because they had always said that they would walk into heaven together.
Wow. Yeah, so, that's what they usually say, is that before you cross over, you're going to see someone come through on the other side.
Yeah.
Aunt, uncle, father, relative, someone's going to come and help guide you, and bring you to the light, right?
Yeah.
To the other side and cross over. And then we have, which I've had, the tunnel experience, right? And there is similarities, but not everybody goes through a tunnel. There's this one girl, they were in a car accident. She was in the back seat. She went forward. Her story's all over television. And she went out the car flipped over, and she was pronounced dead, but she didn't go through the tunnel. She was just on the other side, immediate.
Wow.
And then, ironically, she sees a cowboy on the other side, and he's the...
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, he's the spirit guide. And actually, that was one of the episodes of Beyond and Back.
Oh, okay.
Beyond and Back, that TV show that was on way back. I Survived, Beyond and Back. That's what it was called.
We were talking about that.
And that was a great show. And she crosses over in an instant, and then she sees, she has the vision of what's going to come in her life.
And that's what happened. And
she's brought back. And though my heart goes out to anyone, including yourself, who has a near-death experience, because it's traumatizing, and then other people come back with having 30, 40 surgeries over a 10-year span. And that right there is painful. So my hat goes off and my respect goes out to those people, including yourself. It is not easy. The words that we shed, I've had near-death experience, is easy, but there's a lot that goes behind it, right? Like I said earlier in the show, there's a lot of moving parts that, number one, you have to live with that trauma of, hey, this really happened to me. Then you have to accept it, and then you have to ingest, hey, this really is true.
Yeah.
And then you have the people who don't believe you, right? The people who say, well, come on, when you're gone, you're gone, and there's no such thing. And, I used to argue with those people and say, no, it's true. But now I just gave up. And you know why? I said, look, if the person does not believe in a near-death experience, or they don't believe whether there's another side of spirits and ghosts, it just means that it's not their time in this life journey for them to believe. They're not supposed to get it. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to really get that. But, the near-death experiences, to the listener out there, is true. It's real. And like our guest said, many people have said it's in the Indian religion as well, that we write the book of life, before we're brought into the physical world. This is what we want to experience.
Yeah.
And then the soul's journey goes back home, and there's no time in that world, right? And then you come back, if you choose to, and have another experience.
Yeah. And it's imagine these poor people like Janet that have done this multiple times. Well,
I would consider Janet a messenger from the other side, someone who
exactly.
If you notice that I'm talking a lot, only because
We can't hear you.
with the words, when you're talking, it's just going into a
It's
pitch.
like
So
an
I'm just going
echo.
to talk and then ask what.
It's like
There's nothing we can do about it.
it's like
Just
a
put-
microphone.
just
Like
show-
Everything away, so I have no idea.
microphone. You ever like on the karaoke machines where you're singing and then it's like that back microphone.
Yeah, so we're just gonna, we know you're on the show. Our listeners know. We're just
Yes.
gonna talk through it. We're almost at the end anyway. Unfortunately, it didn't play out the way we want to because we had a lot of good questions for you.
Yeah.
But that's computers and all that good stuff. Unfortunately, this happens. But so I will ask you one-worded questions or two-worded questions, only because if we go on more than that, it shuts you down. So we're on the same page of near-death experiences and the other side. And
Now,
so I'll ask you in one word, have you been to heaven?
I have been to the gates.
Okay. You've been to the gates.
In these
And
experiences, but I've been there in others.
yeah, all right. And that goes to the gates is a big thing.
All I
You
hear
know?
about it is the gates.
Yeah. Well, the gates is,
Gates of the
I was
light.
on the outside of that gate. And I believe if I was brought into the inside of the gate, then you're not brought back into the physical. It's over. Then your journey is the other side. I wasn't inside that gate.
The light was the point of no return.
Okay. Yeah. So
The big one would have been fun.
well, we want to thank you tonight. Unfortunately, I'm cutting the show early because we can't hear you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to the listener out there. So what I just you need to click off on your end. Unfortunately, I'm going to finish up the last few minutes, but we do appreciate you giving it an attempt to
Thank
come
you,
on.
Janet.
I'm going to give you all the recognition you need once you click off, so there's no more interruption and about your books and all that good stuff. So, but don't talk because it's only going to feedback. Thank you for coming on the show. I'm sorry to the guest and to the listener that happened, but it's an unfortunate situation. So let's talk. Near-death experiences. Do you ever think you have experienced one of those?
Not that I know of, or that I could know.
No. And that's the thing. Some people, like our guest, had it at an early age.
I say not that I know because it could have happened in like another life.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But, right.
There are people out there, the listener as well. Have you ever experienced maybe visions or thoughts of heaven or even hell? Have you felt like you've crossed over and left your body, like an out-of-body experience?
Yes.
These things I can tell you as a paranormal investigator and an experiencer that these things are true. They are real.
Yes.
And
most definitely.
If there's a person out there or multiple people or thousands of people that don't believe, it's okay, because it just means, look, in this lifetime, I'm not meant to be a doctor. I'm not meant to be an astronaut. I'm also a person who became a spiritualist through experience. Who, hey, I've seen it, and it's beautiful and it's incredible. And the other side is overwhelming love. There was a case, and again, you could find it on Philip Siracusa near-death experience Facebook page. Send me a friend request if you want. There was a guy who was a multi-millionaire. He had everything. He owned buildings. He had everything. And he got into a fight with one of his partners. He had a heart attack and he died. And he went to the other side. When he came back,
he was different.
He sold everything and changed his life to love, God, peace, and helping put foundations for the sick and for the poor, and St. Jude's Hospital. And he said, look, I had it all wrong. Now, we all want money. We all want to live the life of success and the carry on of our legacy, but that wasn't what it's about. I had it all wrong, and I feel better now. He says, now I live the average person. I've given it all away, but I feel better.
So you think that certain people are picked for this mission?
Certain people are picked to be messengers, like our guest that was just on from the other side, and
And
you
mimic.
come back and tell your stories. And some people whose soul is accepting and understanding on this side through their physical journey will get it. Other people may not get it, and that's okay. The soul has a mission, you know?
Yeah.
And the soul, like our guest said, and other guests have said, that we pick our exit signs. So we wrote it out already. Now, does it mean that, okay, well, the person at 35 years old, they've written out that they want to commit suicide because they knew that that was where they wanted to end?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that too. What do you think on that? Like, what's your opinion on that?
My opinion is that, unfortunately, we may not want to hear certain things. That we all have to live our life to the complete. But there are people, especially guests that we've had on, that say, no, suicide was in what they wrote about their book. They wanted to end at a certain point, and they left, they left their life. I condone it. I'm against it, because I believe that we must go on to complete our journeys. But they said, well, this is their journey. Their journey was to experience certain things and end at a certain point. And that's a tough one. So again, I'm totally against that. I want you to know that. It's just that, do we pick the exit signs of our life? I gotta be quite frank with you and say, yes. There are points of our life where maybe the soul's like, okay, it's completed now. We're over, because there's no time in the spiritual world.
Yes.
And we made up time. So if we made it up and we're living within our own reality of that time, who are we to say when we leave and when we don't leave?
This is true.
Right?
This is true, yes.
There's a lot out there, and
there's
again,
there's so much to know.
Yeah. And, how do you feel as a paranormal investigator yourself, experiencing the other side through the audio equipment, right? The EVPs, the pictures, the apparitions. What's your thoughts?
Well, it took me a while to really, understand and believe in all of that. And through research, I believe it to be true. We are making contact with the other side. And if they want to be known, if they want to let us know that they're here, they're going to.
That's true. And it's also the outreach of what we do as investigators. We go to haunted locations and try to speak to the other side. I like to clear EVPs on a digital or tape recorder. I do not like certain devices where you're trying to make out what they're saying.
Yeah, all that
because
noise.
To me, that's just...
It reminds me of like white noise. That's really all it is.
I want clear evidence. Like, am I speaking to you? And they come back and say, yes. We've gotten that. And I got to tell you that, that doesn't happen all the time.
No.
A paranormal investigator trying to contact the other side is like putting one lake in a fit and one fish in an entire lake and casting all day, and hopefully the fish will bite.
And that's how it works.
And sometimes it'll bite, and then
you're
other times
you're not always gonna get
other times
any type of evidence. That the ghosts don't play like that.
Multiple fish, which means multiple spirits, will answer you simultaneously from the other side. And that's interesting. There is an afterlife. We do go on. We've created our journeys in the physical world for our experiences, whatever it may be, through sickness, through being having, unfortunately, body parts missing, and it's sad and it's upsetting. But the people that come back through these near-death experiences say it all makes sense. And this one lady, she also crossed over and she lost her arm. But on the other side, she had the arm. It was there.
Oh, I think I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we've created it through our own reality. But on the other side, we're still there. We exist, which leads us to believe that this time here in the physical world, we have to live the best we can and complete it the best we can.
Yeah.
Our mission. And we always ask, well, why certain things, and why do other people cross over before me that I know, and why do I lose a son or a daughter? And that's sad, and there are no words for that. It's devastating, it's heartbreaking, and then even to lose a parent or a grandparent is devastating, right? But this is us, and we go on, and then when we cross over to the other side, we're home. And that's where the souls meet, and that's where real life is.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this is an illusion in the physical world, sort of like an illusion, because when you're on this side, everything's more clear and crisp.
Yeah.
And you don't have to speak words, it's through the mind as well. You could feel the emotions, the love of everybody on the other side. And, you know, people ask me, well, what was it like over there? Are there computers? No. Cell phones? No. It is back to the most basics, but the most fundamental parts of our life are the truest form of us and the best forms of us, which means that we look at things different on the other side. We look at a flower and can feel the vibration of energy coming from the flower, of everything that lives, and every comes from everything on the other side. So everything shines with as if it's alive.
Okay.
And it is alive.
I have a question. So now, do you think when you cross over, do you think that we all have jobs to do? Like, is everyone given what do you what do you do? We've heard that before. Like, everyone has a job or something to do.
So it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's
I didn't mean it like that. You know what I mean? We've talked about this. Like, does everyone have like a purpose or something that they have to take care of?
The answer is yes.
That's what yes. That's
Maintaining
what
heaven, yes. So I lost a friend. It was a mutual friend, Ron, I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
He was a friend of ours, and unfortunately, he died a few years ago. Lived in Eastern Pennsylvania.
From cancer from 9/11. He was a fireman.
Yeah, and I seen him in a dream, but the dream was real, and I was pulled into that side, and I remember seeing a light around him, around his physical body, but he looked perfect. And he's looking at me, and I'm walking over to him. He's standing near a tree. I'll never forget this. And I'm walking closer and closer as if I was like blocks away from him. And I says, "You can see me?" He goes, "Yes." And I felt his emotions through my mind and my consciousness. Like, we go on, Phil. I'm okay. I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's not what you think. It's more than I died. It's more than that. This is real now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another friend who, when you ask about jobs on the other side, Ron, who lived in Easton.
Yes.
The other Ron, the motorcycle Ron. And I seen him in a dream, and he was working in a building up in the sky. Mm-hmm. And in the dream, I'm talking to him. I'm like, "You're doing carpentry work."
That's what he loves
in the building. He's like, "Yeah." And he was laughing. He was happy. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Oh man, wait till you get here. This is awesome." And he was joking around with other people on the other side. I'm like, "What?"
I could definitely see.
And the building was huge, and they're making this building in the sky. And then I woke up, realizing that, wait a second, it's more than just a dream. They're telling me something. Mm-hmm. That the soul goes on, and that there's work still to be done, but it's not like physical hard labor that we would think it is here.
Right.
It's acceptance of the soul's energy to build and restore ourselves and learn the values of who we truly are.
Yes.
So I've had many of experiences, like our guest that was on, that the other side, you experience things and you take back and you tell other people who want to hear about it, who can accept it, who can validate it, and maybe their own dreams. There are many, many people with out of body experiences. They are real, they are true. And I tell people to write them down because an out of body experience might be something that a spirit wants you to tell someone in the physical world that's crossed over.
That's true. And a lot of times these kind of things come to you in like in the middle of the night or when like you're half awake and half asleep. That's why it's always good to keep paper near your bed and just write things down.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, remember in the
Sounds
beginning of the
crazy,
show, I spoke about prayers are answered. And if a prayer is not answered, when you want a loved one to get better and they cross over and you're upset and you're like, well, why wasn't my prayer answered? I'm so upset with you. The other side talking to whoever you pray to.
Yeah.
Don't be. Don't be, because there's a reason for every single thing. And you already wrote the reason in the book of life for you. And when you get back on the other side, you say, wait a second, now I get it. I understand it. So this has been a really good show. Unfortunately, like I said, we lost the guest a little bit early,
But we still want to thank Janet Tarantino for coming on tonight. And, you know, she does have a really amazing story. And if you want to read her book, you can go to her website, janettarantino.com. And her book is Dying to See. It's the name of it, Dying to See. And it's an amazing book, and you can really get to know all about her there. And then we want to thank Carnation for sponsoring the show.
Yeah, let's talk about Carnation
We
for a
love
minute.
them.
So Carnation, great products. Give me some of the products.
Well, all I know is that we buy them all the time. The Carnation Instant Breakfast. I mean, our son like lives on them because he doesn't really eat. He's a picky eater.
Yeah, a lot of people like Carnation. I like Carnation. Actually love Carnation.
And it's good to have Carnation now. Instant milk is good to have when you have power outages. Right? It's always good. I mean, my mother always used to have the dry milk in her cabinet. But if you have a power outage, you know, especially now, everybody's always losing power. Always keep that in the closet, and then you have milk.
So yeah, thank you, Carnation. Thank you to our guest. And
join us next
Monday night
on United Public Radio Network on 105.3 from New Orleans. And again, you can find all of her books on her website, janettarantino.com, and she has a book on amazon.com and barnesandnobles.com.
She definitely has fascinating experiences, and you definitely want to read the books because
and I really feel bad that we couldn't
I find it compelling, and you know, it's something that will open up your mind.
Yeah.
Right?
Make you think.
Make you think. Everyone, have a great, safe night. We'll catch you next week. Horsefly Chronicles Radio.
And next is coming up, the Angel Rock.
The Angel Rock.
Yay.
Awesome show. Thank you.